Good morning. It's an early morning teaching video, and today, instead of putting my focus on myself, I'm going to put my focus on the all that is, on the web of interconnectedness that is ourselves. And I'm going to let you watch the sunset, the sunrise. I started out when the sunrise was orange, and I made another video. And I decided, that one's not quite right. In fact, my throat got dry and parched toward the end of that video, toward the very end, where I actually had to stop talking and cough and go get water. And so it was just a seamless shift into stopping the video, into doing what I needed to do to take care of that, and then into starting another video. And I'm sitting here in my upstairs flat where I rarely get to stay because I've created it as a vacation rental for 8 years now. But it's a beautiful spot that we created, and I love it a lot. And I stay up here whenever I don't have vacation rental guests here, which is not very often. In fact, this Airbnb, this spot somehow morphed itself into being the #1 Airbnb in Maryland, the most wished for Airbnb in Maryland. So what I wanted to point to, though, is this little writing desk over here. When I conceived of this place, when I put this desk here, I'm sorry about being shaky, I saw it as a place where I would write a book or many books. But it turns out, even though that cute little writing thing is there, and even though the book that says Just Right is there, that I haven't written anything from this desk, ever. Well, maybe a couple things, but so that's one of the things that is so phenomenal, is that I went to China and did my writing from there on this current book. And this morning I'm driving to New York City to stay for a week and be near my editor, someone who used to be a member of our mastermind group and has attended retreats. And as part of a work trade, we started working together. Now I'm placing myself today and for a week in close proximity to her so that I can read some of her spiritual books and texts that I want to cite as part of my research for the book. So should I have written a book from that desk just because that's what I conceived of in the beginning? Would you say that I've done it wrong, or that I didn't serve my purpose by renting this space out instead, and by, for whatever reason, not ever sitting down there to write? Can we know what should have happened in any given moment? So if you use that as an example, that we can't know that things are showing up, quote, wrong, we can't know what I was supposed to do with my time other than what I did do, can you imagine that you are part of this whole thing that doesn't get to decide what's happening? So this morning I received an invitation to attend a meditation today, a 2 or 3 hour meditation. No, sorry, it might not be that long, but it's a shamanic journey about the interconnectedness of life. And I will send you the link as well in case you would like to attend. And I wanted to talk about that in this video. If you think of this interconnectedness as a spider web, for example, and the spider doesn't know what it is. It just knows that it is sending out threads. It's creating this web. So in some ways, you are that, and yet you don't know what you are. You probably don't even have the consciousness of why you're doing it. You just know that you're doing it. Unless you become, for example, if you are one of the little crisscross places on the web that got created when the spider sent out its threads, you have a purpose to serve. You're connected to the rest of the web. And as long as you're connected to the rest of the web, it can serve its purpose. And you're just there. You just showed up. You get created differently every single day as the spider makes a new web. And in fact, you're not even a you. You're just whatever shows up. There is no you. There is no separate anything. And yet, if the web is all one, it can serve its purpose. And it doesn't know what created it. It doesn't know why it's there. It just shows up and does what it does. If that part of the web, that little crisscross part of the web, started to believe it was the entire web, or started to believe that it was all there is, that it was separate from the rest of the web, or started to believe it was the creator of the web, we would say, well, that's not true. And yet that's what we've done in a way when we were small, and at some point we came into this world and we don't have a memory of what happened. We just move, we just act, we're just connected, we're just showing up. And then we start to believe that we are an I, and then we are an I that is a girl or a boy, and we are an I that needs to please its parents and get them to smile, and we are an I that needs to be popular in school, and we are an I that needs to eat a certain way and to stay healthy, and we are an I that needs to be married to a certain kind of person or create something in this world. And that's how our own sort of false web gets started. And in that false web, we believe that other parts of the web are separate from us. We believe that other parts of the web could even threaten us or hurt us or show up as the enemy, whether it's a spouse or a political foe or someone who's taking an action that appears hurtful, or even the weather. We start to believe that. And from this perspective of the spider web analogy, we can see how crazy that seems. That the other part of the spider web is just there, serving its purpose too, doing its thing, and is just part of the whole web. But if I, as the crisscross part of the web, could see myself as separate enough that I pull away, and I actually break the web, at least in my mind, what happens is I fall down. I'm just hanging there. The web doesn't work anymore. I'm not really able to function or serve a purpose. Or if I am, it's some other different purpose. It's just, it doesn't connect to the rest of life. It doesn't have that tension that holds the whole thing together, that allows me to serve a purpose, to show up wherever I'm supposed to show up. So in the end, what happens is, if I, that this analogy does break down a little bit here, but what happens is each morning the spider restores the web. It gets built anew. It's there whether we believe it's there or not. We may believe that we're still hanging separately from all the rest, and yet the spider, for whatever reasons that we can't understand, comes in and builds a new web. And we, whatever, it's all part of it. It just doesn't work if we separate out and call ourselves a we. If we believe we are that one tiny part of the web that's now hanging down and is separate from the rest. No, the web, it still goes on. It still gets created. It still serves its grand purpose. And we can't know, as part of the web, what that purpose is. We can't even know what created it, and what created it can't necessarily even know itself what it is. So just notice the ways that you're separating, and that the separation comes from a belief that you're separate. Yes, it's very hard for us to get hold of the quantum physics idea that says that we are all one. But if you can at least believe that we are all made of the same kinds of energetic particles, and that your energetic signature, while it may be moving in a different pattern than all the rest, still is not separate from all the rest. If you can think of it as a web, sometimes it's helpful. So it doesn't mean that you need to separate or withdraw. It also doesn't mean that you need to fight in a way that creates more separation. You'll know what it is you need to do when you see yourself doing it. It may be that right now you need to be just learning to question the thinking that would separate you from all that is. And that's the amazing thing that's happening right now in our mastermind group, the ways that we have, because people are in it for a whole year, they really do start to feel like one, that this is just a thing that came together and that brings strength and wholeness and humor and evolution to each of us, and the changes that happen in each person that allow them to live the life that feeds their soul and that feels like it shows up in a way that supports the entire web of their families and of the others in the group and of life in general. It's just phenomenal. So as part of this whole, as you question the thinking that separates you from the whole, you just become what shows up. You become okay with what shows up. You become a person, or whatever you are, that can act on behalf of yourself and on others, and that doesn't just buy into the separation. That the greatest piece of activism is to question the thoughts that separate you. We had a phenomenal inquiry last night on the mastermind group about someone who was feeling very separate from her husband, and every single person in the group could relate to the experiences she spoke of as if we have lived them. There is no separation. We just get to help wake each other up to the belief in separation and to become the recipient of whatever gets built here, to become whatever web or thread or space between the threads shows up. And not to feel like accepting life as it shows up means we're going to be a doormat. We're going to show up. We're going to do what we do. We're going to be an activist in whatever ways we act. And the more we ask why, the more we ask when, the more we ask how, as if we could know from our little position, our changing position in that web. No, we can't know that some other part of the web may be catching a fly at this moment and feeding the soul, feeding the body of whatever made the entire web, whatever keeps us going, whatever keeps it all going. From our little spot in the web, we just feel a ripple, a vibration, maybe a tidal wave it feels like to us, or something that feels very threatening or wrong. But in the end, if we're just doing our part and not believing we know, questioning the thought that says we even can know, then we do just show up and we do just serve the purpose that is the one we are meant to serve in that moment without needing to know. Well, take care, and I'll be thinking of you on my drive to New York, and I'll be sending you the link to today's meditation and also the invitation to our mastermind group. Because we are at a moment of quarterly enrollment, it's a time when you can get in for a lesser price than if you come in at other times of the year. And we start new partners at this time. So it's a great time to look into being part of this phenomenally connected part of the rest of the phenomenally connected part, and to at least experience that connectedness and that waking up to the believing that isn't any more than a concept that we came up with about ourselves. Take care. Thanks, and good morning.